Welcome to Artificially Literate, the show where books, films, and ideas meet, deep thought and curiosity. Every deep dive, we explore a piece of literature, maybe a compelling video, or a cultural moment, really breaking down its philosophical and literal meanings. Whether you're a lover of stories, maybe a seeker of meaning, or just someone who enjoys a thoughtful takeaway, this is your space to reflect, learn, and maybe look at the world a little differently. Today, we're plunging into Stephenie Meyer's Midnight Sun. Now, this is a story many of us thought we knew, right? But seeing it from this completely new vantage point, well, it reveals layers we've probably never truly imagined. To set the stage for a narrator, Edward Cullen, here's a line that I think instantly captures the essence of his existence. When it came to the human mind, I'd heard it all before, and then some. Today, all thoughts were consumed with the trivial drama of a new addition to the small student body.
Yeah, that quote right from the opening pages, it just perfectly nails the core shift this book gives us. We're not just revisiting a familiar love story. We are quite literally stepping inside the mind of this being who's lived for over a century. He's seen everything, heard everything, and is constantly, grappling with these profound, often monstrous instincts while desperately trying to just navigate human society. So this deep dive, it's really all about understanding Edward's internal monologue, his fears, his desires, that incredible burden he carries, and how that perspective, well, it fundamentally alters our entire understanding of the story's big themes. Love, control, the true meaning of humanity, and the relentless march of time, even for an immortal. It's a fascinating lens, isn't it, to re-examine what we thought was maybe a straightforward romance, and finding out it's actually this complex psychological thriller from the inside out.
It truly is a revelation, yeah. So, okay, let's kick things off by immersing ourselves in Edward's pre-Bella existence, this time characterized by, well, an almost suffocating monotony, really, and this mastery over his supernatural abilities that has kind of paradoxically led to this deep, pervasive jadedness. He tells us explicitly, right, several hundred of these voices I ignored out of boredom. When it came to the human mind, I'd heard it all before, and then some. Can you even truly grasp what that means? I mean, being so ancient, so powerful, able to hear every fleeting thought, that the entire spectrum of human consciousness just becomes background noise, utterly uninteresting, devoid of any, genuine novelty or surprise.
It presents such a deep philosophical problem, doesn't it? Edward's immense age, plus his telepathy and heightened senses, it's fostered this profound existential ennui. I mean, when you've literally experienced everything, when every human emotion, ambition, every trivial little concern feels tiresomely predictable, what could possibly hold meaning anymore or spark genuine interest? His disdain is almost palpable when he dismisses the excitement over Bella's arrival, right? Coldly comparing it to flashing a shiny object at a group of toddlers. That's not just a casual remark. It speaks to a being for whom the ordinary has become utterly, utterly mundane. It's a consequence of his own extraordinary, inescapable existence. In a lot of ways, his mind reading isn't really a superpower of connection. It's more like a curse, a curse of inescapable, repetitive triviality. It traps him in this loop of predictable human thought, really highlighting that meaning is often made, not just found, especially when external novelty just stops existing. It's a struggle that resonates, kind of ironically, with certain existentialist thinkers who explored how profound knowledge and a long life can lead to an awareness of life's inherent suffering and maybe lack of ultimate purpose.
And it's not just human thought he's bored of, but human girls in particular. He initially sees Bella as just an ordinary human girl. Her arrival just stirs up this tiresomely predictable excitement. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In our own age, with this unprecedented information overload, where we're constantly bombarded with new stimuli, new trends, new voices, do we sometimes feel a similar kind of jadedness? Does the sheer volume of everything, the constant scrolling, the endless news cycles, the perpetual stream of entertainment, does it dull our capacity for genuine wonder? Does it make us dismissive of what might truly be novel or profound right there in front of us? Like a modern form of Edward's curse, perhaps.
Absolutely. Yeah, the scarcity of genuine, unpredicted novelty becomes this defining factor in how we perceive and, engage with the world. For Edward, his vast, almost infinite experience has basically rendered him emotionally numb. It almost paralyzes his ability to be genuinely surprised or captivated. He's stuck in this perpetual state of, I've heard it all before, just waiting for something, anything to break through. And that, of course, sets the stage perfectly for Bella's arrival, a disruption that isn't just new, but for Edward, it's truly unprecedented, in every sense of the word, like a blank space in a world that's just full of overwhelming noise.
Right. Which brings us to the very core of his initial agonizing struggle, the unbearable scent. He describes his immediate, visceral, almost horrifying reaction to Bella's blood in such excruciating detail. The dry ache in my throat, the hollow urine in my stomach, the automatic tightening of my muscles, the excess flow of venom in my mouth. This is so much more than a simple crush, right? Or even basic physical attraction. This is something far more primal, more terrifying, a battle for his very soul.
Precisely. Yeah, this is the ultimate primal conflict. It's a brutal internal war against this overwhelming murderous instinct, an instinct he spent decades, almost a century, meticulously suppressing. This graphic description, it just lays bare the daily, hourly struggle of a vegetarian vampire like Edward. His internal monologue is brutally honest, isn't it? It reveals the monster that is just an integral part of him. I was a vampire, and she had the sweetest blood I'd smelled in more than 80 years. That phrase alone, sweetest blood, it paradoxically humanizes his monster. It shows us this isn't some detached, abstract, evil thing. It's a deep, ingrained identity he actively fights against, an intrinsic part of his being that, in Bella's presence, just threatens to overwhelm his cultivated self-control. The sheer intensity of that struggle, the vivid physical sensations of his hunger, it makes him, in a strange and unsettling way, far more relatable than we might initially expect. He's a monster in constant battle with his own moral compass.
It really does. It feels like that universal human experience, right? Battling powerful, innate urges with conscious, learned discipline, just amplified to an almost monstrous life or death degree. We might not be fighting the urge to drain a human, but we all face those moments where our primal desires for food, for comfort, for anger, for instant gratification clash violently with our cultivated self-control, our values, or, our ethical boundaries. Edward's struggle is just the most extreme manifestation of that internal conflict we all kind of deal with.
And this conflict, it escalates dramatically, almost catastrophically, in the biology classroom scene. He's seated right next to her, and his internal monologue becomes this detailed, almost clinical, step-by-step plan of exactly how he could kill her. He thinks, with this chilling precision, if I killed the girl first, I would have only 15 or 20 seconds. I would not kill her cruelly.
It's terrifying, yeah, but again, incredibly revealing of his internal torment. It's not just a passing thought. It's a meticulously calculated strategy. It really showcases the depth of his self-loathing.
It's such a chilling scene because he's simultaneously repulsed by the monster he feels himself becoming, even as he's meticulously planning the act itself. And he analyzes his self-loathing with such brutal honesty. Though I hated her, I was absolutely aware that my hatred was unjust. I knew that what I really hated was myself. This is a classic visceral example of psychological projection, isn't it? He's basically externalizing his internal monster, making Bella the initial target of his self-directed rage and despair.
Absolutely. It's a textbook case of projection, in psychological terms, where we unconsciously attribute our own unacceptable thoughts or feelings onto another person. Edward's deep-seated self-loathing, the monster he sees inside himself, becomes something he initially blames her for. It's as if her existence is the sole source of his torment, rather than him recognizing it as this profound internal battle that she merely catalyzes and brings to a horrifying head. His thoughts become this torrent of torment. Why did she have to come here? Why did she have to exist? Why did she have to ruin the little piece I had in this non-life of mine? This isn't about Bella as an individual yet. It's about her as a symbol, a trigger, for his own perceived failure to control his monstrous nature. It's a fundamental human tendency, isn't it? Amplified to an extreme degree by his unique condition, to sort of lash out at the mirror rather than face the reflection.
Yeah, exactly. And the internal battle is so intense that when the bell finally rings, signaling the end of class, he perceives it as this genuine reprieve. He thinks, and we, how cliché, were saved. She, from death. I, for just a short time, from being the nightmarish creature I feared and loathed. This temporary escape is so crucial because it doesn't resolve the conflict at all. It just postpones it, which only deepens his obsession and the internal war he's waging.
Indeed. Yeah, it's a momentary pause in the hostilities, but the war just rages on inside him. And that obsession, that deepening struggle, it's profoundly fueled by perhaps the biggest anomaly Edward has ever encountered in his long existence, Bella's silent mind. For Edward, whose mind-reading ability is usually the source of such profound boredom, right? Just this endless stream of predictable human noise. Bella is a blank slate. He finds himself intensely frustrated, thinking, my extra hearing had always come to me naturally without asking. I'd never had to work at it, but I concentrated now, trying to break through whatever armor surrounded her.
Wow. This is truly a profound development for Edward. I mean, for someone who heard it all before, whose entire perception of humanity was filtered through their thoughts. Bella's mental silence makes her an absolute enigma. It sparks this obsessive curiosity that fundamentally shifts his engagement with the world around him. He's forced, maybe for the first time in a century, to truly observe her actions, listen intently to her words, and guess at her thoughts and feelings, instead of just passively consuming them like usual. This forces him to interact with her on a completely different, more genuine level, one not based on his pre-existing powers or his usual, aloofness.
It's a brilliant literary device, actually. It serves to dismantle his reliance on his supernatural abilities for understanding other people. For a character whose primary interaction with the world is through this invasive consumption of others' thoughts, encountering a blank slate forces him into a state of genuine ignorance and therefore genuine curiosity. How does a being who defines himself by what he knows react when he's confronted with what he absolutely cannot know? It forces him to engage with her on a human level through observation, dialogue, inference, something he hasn't truly had to do with anyone else in generations. This silent mind isn't just a plot device, it's the catalyst for his true re-engagement with empathy and connection.
And this silent mind not only forces Edward to change, but also highlights a very real-world tendency in all of us, doesn't it? When we lack full understanding of someone, when their inner world isn't immediately legible to us, we often project our own assumptions, fears, or desires onto them. For Edward, that blank slate is terrifying and alluring all at once. It forces him to confront a mystery he cannot instantly solve. And in doing so, he begins to see her, and maybe himself, in a whole new light. This inherent mystery and the escalating internal conflict, well, they couldn't remain purely internal for long, could they? That tension reaches a breaking point, and now we move into a pivotal phase where Edward's role shifts dramatically. His extraordinary family starts to weigh in, and the first true sparks of a new transformative kind of love begin to ignite. It all culminates in what you can only really describe as the accidental hero moment. We see Edward's instinct just take over during that terrifying van accident where he instinctively physically intervenes to save Bella, leaving impossible dents in the van and another car in the process. He observes this pivotal, almost instantaneous shift in himself, reflecting, "Somewhere during that short, thoughtless second, when I'd sprinted across the icy lot, I had transformed from killer to protector."
Right. This moment is absolutely crucial because it reveals this deeper, perhaps even noble layer to Edward's character that goes beyond his immediate predatory instincts. It speaks volumes about the underlying nature that Carlyle has meticulously instilled in him over decades. Those years of discipline, the conscious choice to be vegetarian, to deny his very nature. In that split-second crisis, his protective instincts, born from this burgeoning, maybe subconscious connection to Bella, they override his murderous ones. It proves that the monster is not his only identity. It demonstrates the capacity for immediate, selfless action, even from someone so deeply conflicted. It highlights that the choice to protect can be as innate as the urge to harm, given the right circumstances and, significantly, the right influence and years of careful cultivation. It's a profound declaration that his humanity, however buried it was, still exists and can rise to the surface.
That's a really compelling point. It showcases that even a being as ancient and powerful as Edward isn't just a creature of pure instinct. His actions in that moment suggest a profound moral core, a capacity for altruism that breaks through the veneer of his monstrous nature. And it leads us directly to another fascinating aspect of this story: Bella's unconventional courage, or maybe a surprising lack of conventional human fear. She doesn't react with terror to Edward's obvious strangeness or the impossible physics of the accident. Instead, she's described as brave and someone who doesn't like to show weakness. When Edward presses her for answers, she figures out enough to realize his danger, his impossible strength, but crucially, she doesn't run. He notes this with a mixture of awe and bewilderment. She didn't recognize danger the way a human being should be able to. She had the opposite reaction. Instead of running, she lingered, drawn to what should frighten her.
This backward instinct in Bella is truly one of the most intriguing parts of her character. Is it a unique flaw? Like a form of naive blindness to her own peril? Or is it a profound strength of character that allows her to see beyond the surface? It certainly captivates Edward, baffling him at every turn. Think about her utterly calm, almost rational response when he asks her directly, kind of probing her for the fear he expects. What if I'm not a superhero? What if I'm the bad guy? She just says, "Oh, I see, like it's just another piece of information." And then later, even more incredibly, with genuine conviction, "I feel very safe with you." For a being who expects inevitable revulsion, terror, and flight, her calm acceptance, her strange attraction to the very thing that should repel her, it completely disarms him. It breaks all his carefully constructed expectations of how humans behave.
And it raises a really interesting philosophical question about the nature of fear and attraction, doesn't it? Can a true connection, a genuine love, truly exist when one person perceives the other as a monster, or at least a profound danger? And that very monster finds that precise lack of fear, that alluring defiance, to be incredibly appealing. It's a dynamic that challenges our usual understanding of, healthy relationships and self-preservation. It suggests that sometimes what draws us in is the very thing that goes against all rational instinct. Bella's response isn't logical, but it becomes the very thing that makes her indispensable to Edward.
Indeed. Yeah, it creates this foundational paradox for their burgeoning relationship, a bond built on a mutual, almost dangerous attraction to the unexpected. And speaking of transformation, Edward isn't the only one deeply affected by Bella's arrival. The Cullen family dynamics.
Wow.
They offer this rich, complex microcosm of humanity, amplified and twisted by their immortality and their shared unique existence. Each family member reacts to Bella's disruptive presence in their own distinct and deeply revealing way.
Yes, it's like a family meeting where everyone has a wildly different, often really emotionally charged take on the new arrival. You have Alice, right? Her foresight shows her Bella's future, and in her thoughts, she declares with this playful certainty, "I'm going to love her someday, Jazz. I'll be very put out with you if you don't let her be." Then there's Rosalie. Her resentment and fierce jealousy are almost palpable. Edward recognizes she was mortally offended that I found some insignificant human girl more appealing than her, especially since Rosalie initially dismissed Bella as, plain and unremarkable.
And then we have Emmett, the boisterous, playful one. He initially sees Bella as an exciting addition, casually thinking he's willing to kill one human if necessary. But then he later becomes deeply protective in his own blunt way. Jasper, who is so emotionally attuned to everyone around him, struggles immensely with his own thirst in Bella's presence. But he remains fiercely loyal to Alice, his resolve floundering in the face of Alice's desires for Bella's safety and eventual, integration into their family. And finally, Carlisle and Esme, the compassionate, unwavering parents of this unusual family. They understand Edward's torment and are openly hopeful for his happiness. With Esme thinking with such profound relief, "He looks so happy, I've never seen him this way."
Each of them truly represents a different, amplified facet of the vampire experience, don't they? Carlisle and Esme embody self-control and profound compassion, a refined, almost spiritual existence beyond human frailties. Rosalie, with her intense jealousy and initial disregard for human life, showcases raw instinct, that deep-seated resentment over her own lost humanity and vanity, her perception of herself as the ultimate beauty challenged by Edward's affection for a plain human. Emmett's boisterous playfulness and initial casualness about killing speak to a more untamed, less burdened vampirism, maybe a joyful acceptance of his strength. Jasper, with his emotional struggles and a past burdened by violence, represents the heavy toll of vampirism and a constant, arduous fight for self-control, made even harder by his gift. And Alice, with her unique gift of foresight, brings this dimension of destiny and inevitability, seeing a positive, fixed future for Bella that stands in stark contrast to Edward's present torment.
It's incredibly fascinating because even in an immortal family where centuries have passed, these deeply human emotions, jealousy, love, protectiveness, resentment, hope, despair, they're not only present but amplified and complicated by their supernatural nature, their unique gifts, and their shared, often tragic history. It's a powerful reminder that while their external circumstances are extraordinary, their internal emotional landscapes, the complexities of their relationships are in many ways a heightened echo of our own. It shows that even immortality can't escape the messy, beautiful reality of family dynamics.
And it is within these shifting family dynamics and Bella's utterly unique presence that we witness a truly pivotal turning point for Edward. The undeniable, transformative unveiling of love, and with it a newfound, deeply personal purpose. We see his dawning realization of love for Bella, a love that utterly changes his entire perspective on his eternal, monotonous existence. He reflects with this profound sense of revelation, "For the first time in 100 years, I was grateful to be what I was. Every aspect of being a vampire, all but the danger to her, was suddenly acceptable to me, because it was what had let me live long enough to find Bella."
That is truly the transformative power of love, isn't it? It completely redefines his entire existence, his years of killing time, which he once viewed as this monotonous burden, a barren wasteland of meaningless immortality. They're now retroactively reinterpreted as years of progress, refining, preparing, mastering myself so that I could have this now. Love provides this retroactive justification for all his past suffering and discipline, imbuing meaning into an otherwise non-life. It's a profound spiritual recalibration, isn't it? As if all the centuries of his barren existence suddenly just burst into bloom, retroactively imbuing them with the singular, beautiful purpose. He finally has a reason to be, a reason to endure.
It's a powerful recontextualization.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, on a philosophical level, does love truly justify the inherent dangers of his existence? Or does it simply make them more poignant, more bearable, by giving him a reason to fight against his nature? Is this love a form of self-delusion, maybe, allowing him to accept what he is? Or a genuine, almost miraculous transformation of his entire being? It certainly shifts his perspective from bitter resignation to a grateful, passionate purpose, and that sets the stage for an even more direct and agonizing confrontation with his true dual nature.
Indeed. It's no longer just about survival or merely avoiding the monster within. It's about earning the right to this love. It's about becoming worthy of it, even if it carries immense catastrophic risks for both of them. And that relentless pressure, that beautiful but terrifying shift, leads us directly into the heart of the next part of our story, where consequences are unavoidable and choices absolutely must be made. Just a reminder, you're listening to Artificially Literate. If you're enjoying this deep dive into Midnight Sun, remember to follow us. You can find Artificially Literate on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube for more thoughtful explorations of your favorite stories and ideas. As the saying goes, and Edward would certainly know it better than most, love doesn't always come in convenient packages. And so we arrive at part 3. This section is filled with deeply personal confessions, the stark inevitability of their dangerous world, and the profound, agonizing choices that will ultimately shape Edward and Bella's future. The first major, incredibly vulnerable moment, of course, is that pivotal scene in the meadow. Edward finally, after so much internal torment and hesitation, reveals his true nature, his skin glittering like a million diamonds in the sunlight. Bella's reaction to this terrifying, beautiful spectacle is everything Edward has both feared and desperately hoped for. He expects revulsion or terror, right? But after an initial startled scream, her expression shifts almost magically to wonder, then deep fascination, and an undeniable consuming desire to touch him. He can barely comprehend it, thinking, how could she smile? There was wonder in her voice.
Oh, that scene is profoundly impactful. Precisely because Bella's response utterly subverts Edward's deepest lifelong fears. It challenges his very identity, his lifelong self-perception as this monstrous outcast. Instead of the expected horror and flight, she sees beauty, something magnificent and precious. Her touch, described with such raw sensory detail as fever hot against mine, and though a tremor quivered through her fingers, there was no fear in that touch. It's a testament to her unique, almost defiant courage and perhaps a deeper understanding of Edward that he himself has yet to fully grasp. It highlights a universal truth, I think. Our deepest fears about revealing our true selves are monstrous or vulnerable parts. They're often not met with the rejection and revulsion we anticipate, but with acceptance, or even, in Bella's case, sheer fascination and admiration. Her acceptance liberates him in a way he never thought possible.
It really is a moment of pure emotional alchemy, a profound breakthrough for Edward's self-acceptance. Following this raw unveiling, Edward embarks on his long confession, right, painstakingly revealing aspects of his tumultuous past, including that rebellious adolescence where he hunted bad men, murderers, criminals, those he judged deserved punishment. He offers this philosophical justification for these actions, a desperate attempt to kind of balance his internal ledger. If I followed a murderer down a dark alley, if I saved her, then surely I wasn't so terrible. This is Edward attempting to reconcile his monstrous nature with some semblance of morality, to make a tally of good deeds against monstrous ones.
Yeah, this deep dive into his past brings us squarely into a complex ethical dilemma, one that grapples with the tension between, say, utilitarianism and deontology. Can bad choices, even the act of taking a bad life, truly be balanced by good choices, like saving another in some cosmic moral ledger? Edward is desperately trying to construct a subjective justification, an internal accounting system, believing that if he only kills those who are truly evil, he can somehow mitigate his own inherent monstrousness. He grapples with the weight of each kill, even if it's a bad man, admitting it never seemed to balance out the tally. His analogy of the alcoholic tempted by 100-year-old brandy to explain his overwhelming thirst for Bella's blood, that's incredibly revealing. It underscores her unique allure and the immense constant struggle he faces. It highlights the complexities of moral philosophy and self-justification in a world that's really beyond conventional human morality. It's a fascinating thought experiment, forcing us to consider accountability when the actor operates outside our normal human constraints.
It truly forces us to examine our own moral compasses. How do we justify our own gray area choices in daily life? Is a good intention always enough to absolve a questionable action? And just as Edward and Bella are beginning to navigate this new, fragile understanding, a terrifying external threat emerges to tracker James. He arrives on the scene, immediately intrigued by the helpless human girl who smelled better than any meal he'd had in the last century. James's inexplicable elation and his strategic, cunning, almost playful mind make him a truly formidable and terrifying foe.
James, in many ways, serves as a critical catalyst here. He forces the narrative forward and deepens the stakes dramatically. His arrival compels Edward and the Cullens to act decisively and pushes their boundaries in a way nothing else really has. His pursuit isn't just about hunger, it's about the thrill of the chase, the strategic challenge, the ultimate hunt. James embodies a different, darker aspect of vampirism, one that revels in the game, in manipulation and cruelty, rather than just raw instinct. The family's immediate, frantic response splitting up, creating decoys like Emmett's football and hockey sticks in a bag to throw off the scent, and Alice's urgent, flickering visions of danger all demonstrate the extreme lengths they must go to protect Bella. This human who has, against all odds, become invaluable to their immortal coven, it raises a profound question. How much is one human life worth to an entire family of immortals, especially one that typically tries to remain hidden and detached from human affairs? For the Cullens, Bella quickly becomes invaluable, a beacon in their existence worth any risk.
And this escalating danger culminates in the chaotic, desperate rescue attempt in Phoenix, where the tracker's cruel show for Edward results in Bella suffering horrific, near-fatal injuries. Edward's anguish throughout this ordeal is almost unbearable. It's raw and completely palpable. He thinks with devastating certainty her heart would stop and never beat again, and we hear his despair, his utter breakdown. I heard myself screaming Carlyle's name, but he was already there. The words pouring from my mouth weren't words anymore, just mangled heaving sounds, sobs. It's just a visceral, heartbreaking depiction of his profound pain and utter helplessness.
It truly is a moment of absolute despair for Edward. It pushes him to the very brink of his self-control and sanity. This profound pain, this moment where he truly believes he has lost Bella, is sharply contrasted with Alice's desperate, flickering visions of a future where Bella is healthy and whole, alive and happy, and with me. This near-fatal event solidifies Edward's commitment in a way nothing else could. It reveals the brutal reality of their dangerous world and the immense sacrifices required to protect what he loves. It speaks to the universal lengths we go to protect those we care about, and the emotional toll such efforts take. But in Edward's case, it's amplified by the very nature of his existence, the realization that his immortality couldn't protect her from the consequences of their world.
Yeah. In the terrifying aftermath, as Bella slowly recovers, her continued lack of conventional fears just remarkable. And then comes her startling, unwavering confession, a declaration that defies all logic and self-preservation. I would rather die than stay away from you. This profound, mutual, unwavering commitment sets the stage for the book's poignant and deeply philosophical closure.
This mutual, unwavering commitment is incredibly powerful, yeah. Yet it immediately creates this new, agonizing dilemma for Edward. He wrestles with the perfect future that Alice shows him in immortal Bella, forever by his side, versus the human life she deserves, the life he feels he has absolutely no right to take from her. He sees a vivid vision of Bella 20 years from now, maturing gracefully into middle age, children 2 or 3. His profound, ultimate act of love is his refusal to steal that human future from her. He thinks with heartbreaking clarity, I could never pay for my own happiness with the loss of hers. This is the ultimate act of love for Edward, allowing the beloved to choose their own path, their own mortality, their own destiny, even if it means profound, agonizing pain and loss for himself. It's a rejection of his selfish desire for her immortality, and a selfless embrace of her autonomy and her right to a human life, even if it's one he cannot fully share.
It truly is. It's a beautiful, painful, and deeply selfless conclusion to this deep dive into Edward's mind, leaving us with his raw, enduring torment, even in the face of love.
I couldn't live with myself if I ever hurt you. You don't know how it's tortured me.
Wow. What an incredible journey we've taken through Midnight Sun, viewed entirely through the unique and profoundly tormented mind of Edward Cullen. This deep dive into his perspective truly forces us to question our assumptions about seemingly perfect, powerful beings, doesn't it? It reveals the immense, almost unbearable burden of knowledge and power, and how even immortality can lead to profound ennui, devastating self-loathing, and complex, agonizing moral struggles that maybe transcend typical human experience.
It absolutely does, yeah. This story, told from Edward's perspective, it challenges us to re-examine our own assumptions about who protagonists and antagonists truly are, about where beauty ends and monstrosity begins, and about what we truly desire for ourselves versus what we are willing to allow or even sacrifice for those we love. It forces us to confront the idea that even the most outwardly serene individual might be battling an internal war of unimaginable proportions. So maybe think about this. What personal monsters do you grapple with in your own life? And what sacrifices are you willing to make for love or for perceived greater good, even if it brings you profound personal pain or goes against your deepest desires?
Powerful questions for us all to ponder, yeah. Both within the pages of a beloved story and within our own lives. Thank you for listening to Artificially Literate. We hope this deep dive into Midnight Sun has given you some new insights and perspectives, opening up new avenues for thought and reflection. Be sure to check out our other deep dives, follow us for more such topics, and stay tuned for the next book we'll be exploring. And remember,
Feed your brain, starve your inner fool.